wanted the Enterprise, even though it's going to be set up like the Enterprise was on the TV show, to feel very new and sexy.
What J.J. wanted and what Scott wanted were both the same thing, which was to remain true to the original feel of the Enterprise, but actually make it look cool, functional, but also futuristic, you know, because this is happening 300 years in the future.
Scott Chambliss had a team of designers on the show early on doing versions of the Enterprise. And then we have a guy, Alex Yeager, who really made sure that it was a real 3D thing, it worked, and add details and add functionality to it.
At first, we were kind of all apprehensive because we're like, is this going to be some crazy off-the-wall thing? And it actually turned out to be a very sort of homage, I guess, to the original series Enterprise.
There was a lot of checks and balance. We say, well, should that engine be on, or what does that engine do, or how do these doors open? And we check with the experts. Fortunately, a couple guys in the model department were big experts on it.
When it came to kind of deciding what we're going to do with it, it was definitely a task that weighted heavily on all of us. The Enterprise is the quintessential gemstone of science fiction. There's nothing bigger, more iconic than the Enterprise.
I worked with all the Enterprises in miniature form with the exception of the original one. And this ship got a little bit of stuff from the original Enterprise, from the original TV series, and then we have a lot of the elements that you'd see on the Enterprise A.
JJ had said that he wanted to turn it into a hot rod. And that's what I'm most proud about, actually, was that we did turn the Enterprise into kind of this hot rod thing.
I think the newest part was the nacelles going from a basic cylinder, which they were on the original series, to these sort of swoopy forms. Another thing on this ship, too, was that JJ wanted something to happen to the ship when it goes into warp.
When I was a kid and I watched Star Trek, the ship never really did anything. You know, nothing really moved. And I was sort of determined, actually, to put some moving parts on it, you know.
When the Enterprise goes into warp, we have these panels that pop up on the back of the engine that sort of help us know that this thing's about to go into warp. It's one thing that is a little off-canon in comparison to the original series is our Enterprise is about twice as big as the original Enterprise. But that was done to just increase the grandeur of the Enterprise, and so our Enterprise turned out to be a little more than twice the size of the original Enterprise.
One of the very important shots on the show, obviously, was the first time that you see the Enterprise in its full glory. And JJ said, let the ship break frame. It's like the ship is so big that the camera can't contain the whole thing. So you'll notice the edges of the ship are actually cut off, and it makes it feel bigger and grander.
We did a lot of research on what does an object look like, you know, when it's that big. I remember watching the Queen Mary 2 when it came to San Francisco, and it's all a little khaki wampus all over the place. Each of those panels is just not true.
If you have a ship that's 1,500 feet long, you're never going to get a perfectly straight line down it. Anything that's built by the human hand has slight imperfections.
When a computer draws a straight line, it is absolutely straight. There's no error. And so when you want to look at the Enterprises, each panel just has to have just a little bit of imperfection.
So we spend a lot of time, and we're very meticulous with doing that, because it's easy to look at something and say, you know what, that looks fake, or it doesn't look quite right. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is just putting that extra work in.
You'll see it when light or the sun travels across the surface. It just changes just slightly as it goes from one panel to the next.